Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Tuesday talk. My name is Jen Chaney. I have my friend Margaret here, who I will allow to introduce herself in just a moment. But we're going to have a wonderful conversation over the course of the next half hour. But before we get started, for our live listeners, we love audience participation, and there is a way that you can stay engaged with us, and that's by asking a question. So how your Zoom screen is set up, either at the top or bottom, there should be a Q&A button. Click on that and you can type in a question. And if it's not showing up at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says more. It's a circle with three dots in it. You may have to click that for the Q&A button to pop up. But either way, please, if you want, any question that comes to mind, go ahead and feel free to ask. This is a very general update meeting. There isn't a specific topic. This is an executive update with our president and CEO. So really a wide array of questions. We don't have any specific topic that we're going to be focusing on today. So Margaret, for our first time listeners and viewers, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so always a pleasure to join these calls. I've been with the company now. I'm in my 15th year. So I started with Right at Home back in 2011, and then through progression of different roles, stepped into this particular seat, the CEO seat, back in February, March of 2022. It's all a blur. So I've been in this seat for a little over 3 years and absolutely love this industry and love Right at Home. So I'm excited to spend the next 30 minutes talking about whatever kind of topics we want to hit on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I would like to start with a very broad question. And
Okay.
I know you, Margaret, and this is a question that you could probably talk about for, I don't know, a few hours. But you've got like just a few minutes to cover this question. But just looking kind of for a State of the Union update for our listeners on in your position as the president and CEO of our company. How is Right at Home doing? Current status, big exciting things that are happening right now. Just currently, as of today, what's going on at Right at Home?
Yeah, certainly it's a great time to be in home care. And I think if you go back and listen to other updates that we've done in the past, I probably said the same thing because it is so good in terms of the direction of where we're headed, how the system is performing. When I look at the different kind of metrics that we monitor broadly across the network, everything's moving in the right direction that it should. So that's, hours of care being provided and what's happening with number of caregivers that are working across the network at each of the local offices and the number of clients that we're getting to take care of and the honor of being able to do that and how that's continuing to grow. Because at the end of the day, our mission is to improve the quality of life for those that we serve. And so we are just touching so many lives on a regular basis. I mean, in any given week, we may be supporting, 23,000 clients in one week across just the US alone. And so then when you think about the caregivers that are employed and the office staff members that the team that each franchise is employing, the family members that are getting that peace of mind and knowing that mom, dad, whoever their loved one is getting that additional care, that additional assistance coming alongside them and helping them age gracefully or live life wherever they call home. So that's really, really exciting. But when I think about the industry, so the brand, we're doing extremely well. We're performing well. We just continue to see our franchise local owners are continuing to grow their businesses. And at the end of the day, that's what here at the corporate office we get up and think about every day is how do we help our franchisees build sustainable, profitable businesses? And what are all the best practices and support and everything that we can bring around them in order to help them do that. Now, it still requires execution in the local market and, that drive that an individual will need to have in order to be successful. We're certainly there helping give them all the tools and the ways in which that they can execute in a way that will bring great value. So, when I think about, so the network's doing great, but then I think just about the industry, and we truly are just getting started. We've got this big boom, and everybody's been talking about it. You got these baby boomers that are moving into that stage in which they are going to need additional assistance. And so we are just scratching the surface. Even though we've been a brand now for 30 years, we celebrated that this year, 25 years in franchising, we truly are just getting started in terms of the additional impact that we can have and the number of lives that we can touch as we continue to live out this mission in every local market that we're at, and the markets that we're not in, that's where we want to be as
Hmm.
well, because it's such a great service. And
Hmm.
I've been a consumer of the services and could talk for hours about that as well. But so I would sum up how this year is going when I think about is we're having yet again another record breaking year. And we're just getting started in terms of the impact that we can have as a brand together.
Okay, awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
All right, so want to talk a little bit about strategy.
Okay.
As I am a lucky individual that am part of the leadership team, so I participate in all the strategy sessions that we have as a leadership team. But a frequently asked question that we get on the franchise development team is, yes, that people love that we're very forward thinking. We're thinking about the future of senior care. We're thinking about the future of right at home and how that impacts our franchise owners. So my question to you is, how does the leadership team ensure that alignment between the actual strategy and current like franchisee needs, like boots on the ground, franchise owners, their voices being heard? How do those two things align with future forward thinking strategy and, immediate franchisee needs, and how are their voices heard?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways, and again, I could talk for probably hours around the different ways in which we are constantly soliciting input from the franchise network. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, as I mentioned, we get up thinking about how can we build sustainable, profitable business, help our franchisees do that.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, we have to understand what are the challenges that they're being faced with each and every day. So
Yep.
whether it's through engagement with their coach or it's coming to the annual meeting or it's participating in takeoff Tuesdays, because those topics are driven by what we're hearing from the network in terms of where there's questions or best practices that we can really hone in on. But when we think about strategic planning, while we have an official process we go through every summer that is strategic planning, and we this year, as you know, Jen, we're doing a 3-year refresh on a 3-year plan.
Mhm.
From when I stepped in the role in 2022, we did our first kind of 3-year plan and then have been executing that along the way. And our path to that 3-year plan isn't a direct line, it's a zigzaggy because things change. Like, for example, in 2022, AI wasn't even part of our 3-year
Mhm.
strategic plan. And boom, AI is everywhere,
Mhm.
and now we've got staff, people that have that expertise here at the corporate office. We've got lots of initiatives going on around that because it's a recognition of what's changed in the market. So as we think about strategic planning, we're listening all the time throughout the year through all these different channels of what is important, what is top of mind, what's keeping our franchisees up at night, and where are they seeing opportunities in their local market. We also dial in really tightly with what we call our Strategic Leadership Council, or many times we use lots of acronyms. So SLC is the acronym that we use for them. But they are representatives across the 8 regions that we have in the US. So we take the entire US and we break it up by states into 8 regions, and then those regions elect a representative that sits on this Strategic Leadership Council. So that makes up 8 of the members.
Mhm.
And then there's 4 other members that sit on the council, which brings it to a total of 12 that
Mhm.
are used to balance out. And we don't have everybody, the council terms are 2 years and they don't all leave at once. And so there's always a staging of so many rolling off each year. And so then those would be reelected. And then those appointed positions, those 4 other positions, are used by the council themselves to say, okay, based on the elected individuals that sit on there, are we missing anything? Like, perhaps do we have more really tenured offices than maybe some newer offices? If that were the case, they may say, well, we want to appoint a newer office because we're trying to always make sure we have a good representation across the network as we have in this council that helps us at the corporate office think through strategically where do we need to move. And so then it's a collaboration. We're bringing ideas of what we're seeing and how we're reading the tea leaves of what's changing across healthcare and home care as at an industry level. And the SLC is bringing in feedback of here's what's happening in our region, challenges maybe that are happening in individual states. Here's the feedback that we're getting. But we also, through different listening sessions and whatnot, are always engaging with the franchise network and through surveying. So we do some standard surveying throughout the year as well to say, what is your feedback? Where are you seeing opportunities? How can we get better? All of that comes together, all that input to then help us create a really well-rounded strategic plan. And then it gets to execution. And on the execution side, then we're partnering again with the Strategic Leadership Council around different task force that we have. But it also creates opportunities outside of those task force or in addition to those task force for people that aren't sitting on that council to say, hey, I'm really interested in this topic and be part of a working group that's working through and helping us either pilot some things or think through or enhance existing capabilities, always providing input. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're focused on things that are really going to drive value for the franchise network.
Okay, thank you for that. And a question came in while you were answering that last question. I'll read it to you here. It says, do you think innovation products will help with the caregiver drought?
Yeah, so certainly we know that with all the numbers of I talked about this boom of clients that are going to need our support. We know there's not an equal boom of caregivers because there's not an equal population behind the baby boomers that matches the baby boomers.
Yeah.
And we've known that for quite some time. And so we've
Yeah.
been very dialed in programs and innovation and new ways in which we can not only in each local office help that franchisee think about best practices and become that employer of choice in their local market. And that can be an overused term, but at the end of the day, we want to help franchisees think about and create a culture in which caregivers that want to work, the first thing they're going to do is say, I want to check with my local right at home office because the way they treat me and respect me and support me and guide me and prepare me for this great role of being a caregiver, all those things that they choose to say, when I've got time to work, I want to work for that brand because of how I'm treated. So that's what we kind of mean by employer of choice.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that we can't just rely on the caregivers themselves, and they provide such a critical service when they're actually in the home. But there are things happening when the caregiver is in the home, if it's not a 24/7 kind of setup or need for that particular client. So we've been testing different technologies. So innovation is playing a role, has been playing a role in how can we continue to keep people in their homes, still give that peace of mind to family members, but use some technology because the clients that we're starting to serve, the baby boomers, are more accepting of technology than maybe the silent generation before them. And we see that shifting too, and just the type of consumer that we're going to be supporting in the home is shifting in terms of their comfort with technology. So we're always looking at innovating around different things that are going to supplement recognizing this caregiver shortage. So how can we use some technology when the caregiver isn't in the home to help make sure that we understand what's happening in the home, the family can see things that are happening in the home, and that can help dictate the care plan.
Okay.
But technology is going to play a key role, always has and will, even
Yes.
more as we move forward.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I do have some questions that I teed up in advance of our call. So I cheated just a little bit.
Uh-oh.
But I know that you and I have done these several times before. So I try to think of questions that I haven't asked before, maybe asking in a different way.
Yeah.
And so here's my question for you. In your opinion, what values do you believe are most critical for franchisees to embody in their day-to-day operations. Keeping in mind that our listeners are people that are interested in joining Right at Home, that have are going to be attending a discovery day, just attended a discovery day, possibly received our approval, just signed a franchise agreement, getting ready to start their business and not knowing like, all right, so what are the things that I need to focus on? I want to have an amazing, culture in my office. I want to run an amazing business, have a great atmosphere. So what values in the actual franchise owner do you think are most important for a franchisee to embody in their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, so I mean, the easy one is just integrity, right? The value of just integrity, recognizing that there's lots of different jobs that people could do, and I would hope people approach everything with integrity. But I guess you can't always make that that assumption.
Yeah.
But when we talk about home care, we are going to be taking care of some of the most vulnerable individuals out there. And the majority of the clients that we service adults, so anyone 18 years of age or older. So we may have some younger adults that have needs that we can meet, but the majority of our clients are going to be what you would more deem seniors. And I am always wanting to change my terminology of senior as I get older every year. But anyways, nonetheless, it's a very vulnerable population. So I think, you need a passion for helping people age gracefully wherever they call home, a passion for senior care, a passion for helping others. And I think integrity plays into that. And then when I think about as a business owner, so what do I need as a business owner? So beyond just saying I'm going to be a good, ethical employer in my local market, and I'm going to provide a really good quality service, and I'm going to do what I say and mean what I say and all those things. When I think about you as a leader and employer, you need to have that mentality of you can't do it on your own, and you have to surround yourself with individuals that complement you from a leadership perspective, and that together, because when you first start off, there's a minimum of two people that really need to be actively working in the business. But as your business takes off, you're going to need to bring other individuals in, and you want to be able to be someone that people want to work with, right? So you are collaborative, and you're very authentic, and you're accountable to yourself, but you hold others accountable, because that's going to allow you to build a really strong business. And then I think because of our industry, and we'll have clients for a few days, or we may have clients for a couple months, a couple years, whatever the case may be. It's that tenacity. So I think another value is that understanding that you're owning your own business, but you're not in business by yourself. There's going to be good days, bad days, great days, all of that.
Yep.
And you're never in an island. You're never on an island. You're never by yourself. So
Yep.
use the resources that are available to you. So be open and humble enough to say, help me with my business. Help me think about this differently versus, holding it tight to your vest. I've got it all, and I'm just going to be
Yeah.
a one-man band or a one-woman band or whatever kind of
Yes.
band. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay, got it. Yes, thank you.
yeah.
And two questions came in while you were answering that last one. It said, the first one here says, do you recommend that franchisees do any type of personality test to caregivers before you hire them? How do you make sure they are caring and compassionate?
Yeah. So, this would probably be a really good question for Nikki Hollis, who is our Senior Vice President over People Strategy and Caregivers and all that in terms of personality tests. Because
Mhm.
we certainly use some personality things here internally as we're understanding our team members. I don't necessarily see personality tests being used with caregivers.
Mhm.
But what you do learn through our processes and procedures and best practices, and as you are learning what does it mean to run a home care company, we're going to help you figure out, okay, how do you find caregivers, and what are you looking for? And each state might be a little different in terms of certifications they may need to have, or education that you need to include in your orientation. But you're also going to get really good at just being able to trust your gut and understand these individuals that are coming in. And because at the end of the day, they are going to be your product.
Yep.
When we talk about home care, it's a service-based industry. And so you're putting caregivers in the home. But you're going to get very skilled on what it is you're looking for.
Mhm.
And it's a combination of set, but also it's a combination of heart.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that this industry attracts a lot of people with amazing hearts.
Yes.
And so I think it's more with all the training, you'll get really good at that versus
Yes.
saying there's some metric that if you don't check on
Yeah.
this right, that means you're not going to be a good. I don't,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I will add to that, Margaret. So yes, of course, when you're hiring caregivers, you're going to get better the more and more caregivers that you hire, specifically what to look for, going through the interview process and making that initial hire for that
Yeah.
caregiver. Next, we have a ton of resources provided
Yes.
to you, the franchise owner, to help train and educate your caregivers on the level of service that is expected, best in class service that we provide here at Right at Home. So, making sure that they're properly educated and coached
Yep.
and trained and supported, that is key. Then taking it a step further to ensure, like, how do you know how they're actually doing? We do have surveys through Activated Insights that are provided to you as a franchise owner on clients and caregivers. So
Yeah.
caregivers are surveyed on how much they love their job and what they do, but then clients or the family members of the clients are
Mhm.
also provided a survey to say, what did you think of your caregiver?
Right.
What kind of care did you receive? And was it the best in class care that we talk about? So you're going to get some insight to the actual care that the client is receiving from that caregiver. That's more kind of like how do you know how they're actually doing out there in the field? But that's an incredible resource that we provide as a
Right.
franchisor.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
here's the next question that came in. It says, piggybacking off of Jen's question, what values or qualities are best to look for in the first office staff hires we need to make?
Yeah, so that's a really, really great question. And again, I'm going to tell you it depends on what are your strengths. And that's where your Right Start coach. So we have a coach that as you start with the Right at Home network, from when you sign that franchise agreement, you're going to have someone coming alongside you to help you work through and understand what is this thing called home care? How do I get started? In what order do I do things? All of that. One of the things that you're going to learn, and as you're starting to learn our industry, is where your strengths, because we all have wonderful strengths that we bring to the table. What are those in connection to running your business? Maybe you're a bit more operational focused than you are maybe sales focused.
Mm-hmm.
If that's you, then your coach is going to say, okay, based on what we're seeing and where you really shine, and you can see your eyes lighting up, you're really excited. Let's think about bringing in someone that has those complementary skill set. Or it could be the completely opposite, right? That you're this very outgoing, just, love meeting people and want to be out there in community, which all owners, I want them out in the community because I think it's your business and it's really, really important. But then your coach may come and say, all right, well, then based on your strengths,
Uh-huh.
think about maybe bringing someone in that has this skill set that's more tied into dotting the I's and crossing the T's and some of the operational things. So the answer is you want to bring that next person in. And as you continue to grow your team, bringing in those next individuals that bring that next complementary set of skills
Mm-hmm.
that you need as you're scaling your business.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
welcome.
and this next question, it's an FAQ that we get a lot, and a question that I haven't asked of you in quite some time, so
Oh.
the perfectly timed here. It says there's a lot of competition in senior care. What differentiates Right at Home from other brands?
Yeah, so I always love the competition question
Mhm.
because I love competition. And
Hmm.
I always say, as you're looking at a market, go look to see who's there. And odds are they're probably going to be located, their physical offices are probably located in a certain area of the city. And that's usually because it makes it easier for caregivers to come in and interview and all that stuff. But
Hmm.
competition's lovely because it gives you a measuring stick within your community. And
Yeah.
then when you think about us being a service-based organization and a service-based business
Hmm.
itself or concept, the way in which we differentiate is the experiences that we create. And so we focus a lot on what are the best practices and way in which you can differentiate yourself in your local market by creating what I'll call the micro experiences. Every touch point with our brand, we want it to be a very positive experience.
Hmm.
But we're human too, right? So we know not every touch point may end up being as positive as the receiver of it wanted it to be. And then it's how do we respond to those elements that
Hmm.
help us move forward and make those. There was a book called Milkshake Moments, right? How do you make it a milkshake moment if you're not meeting the needs? So
Hmm.
from a service perspective, we talk about being the best in how we treat our caregivers, how we treat the clients, how we engage with the family members, all the things you're going to learn and you're going to execute and differentiate yourself in the market by the experiences that you create for all of your stakeholders in your market. They're going to help you grow your business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're
And with
welcome.
just a few minutes left, the question I always ask to kind of wrap things up, what advice would you give to someone who is considering franchise ownership with Right at Home?
Yeah. So we recognize that that can be a big leap, right? You're kind of standing on the edge of deciding, gosh, do I get into business for myself? And if I do that, do I do it with franchising? And then if it's in senior care, of
Hmm.
course you would want to do it with Right at Home. I'm biased. So,
Hmm.
um,
Same.
but I think that's a big leap. But we're here to help be the parachute, the soft landing, the whatever you want to call it, to say, if it is the right time in your life and you really are passionate about wanting to have your own business, there's not a better way to do that than through the franchising model because
Hmm.
you are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And then we pride ourselves on bringing all those resources and best practices and 30 years of experience in the industry to say we can give you all the ingredients. Now, you still have to be the baker and execute on those agreements and be active in your market and do the things that you need to do,
Hmm.
but we're going to help you along the way because we're not successful if you're not successful.
Yeah.
And so when I think about that leap, it's like, okay, it's not a leap without a parachute. You're taking a leap that you're going to have all the buffers around you that can help you be really successful if you stay engaged and we work together to grow an asset that you're looking to build.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. And thank you for taking the time to do this. I know that you are a very busy person,
Oh,
so I appreciate you taking the time, and I know that our listeners do as well. So thanks again.
yeah, no, my pleasure. And I appreciate it. The listeners taking time and you taking the time because
Yes.
I'm not any busier than anybody else.
Okay. Sounds great, Margaret. Until next time.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.